Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So today's video is our completed sales and pricing video that we like to do for CGC 9.8 comic books. And these videos have been pretty fun and interesting lately, I think. With the whole COVID-19 really affecting comic book market prices, I think it's really interesting to kind of see some of these prices in the CGC 9.8 right now. But yeah, a great full list of key issues here. I think we're still seeing some pretty good evidence that the prices are generally heating up a little more than cooling off, I think, for these CGC 9.8 comic books. But I always say on these videos, like, one of the best things you can do if you're buying CGC 9.8 comic books is just have more knowledge on what the prices are for the key issues, like the fair prices are for the key issues, because there's always someone out there on eBay trying to get like 100 or 200 bucks more, or 20, 30, 50% more than the fair value. So you do that research, way less of a chance you're ever going to overpay. So that's kind of what these videos are. And some great prices and key issues on doing my research this morning. So they're all like completed sales off of eBay in the CGC 9.8. All the prices we'll talk are in US dollars, and I'll have a list in the description below, of all of the books that we'll talk about with the prices as well. So the first comic book is a team submission, and we just got one team submission this week, but he had purchased and got, I think, a pretty good negotiated price for a Batman 404. So in this environment, kind of, one of my favorite issues, Year 1, Part 1, Batman 404. It's the first modern appearance of Catwoman, too, so it does kind of have a little first appearance, but retells the origin of Batman with a great, cool cover. Pretty hot right now with this Frank Miller signing in CGC coming up here, and sort of the whispers of the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson kind of being a younger Batman. So I saw this in an auction go for $230, but it was La Pluma Cigars on Instagram had let me know that he had purchased this book for $175. So Batman 404 for $175 in this environment, I think, is a good deal, considering that auction went for $230. And a one team book this week. If you do have any completed listings or prices, or maybe you purchased a book or you saw something, definitely let me know on Instagram. Is probably the easiest way to kind of get me to say it on video. Sometimes I miss them in the YouTube comments, but you can do that too if you want. But just the one team submission, Batman 404 for $175. Next book, another Batman book I saw sell, and such a classic. Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, #1. Yeah, first Carrie Kelly, the girl Robin, and this Frank Miller story too. Maybe people just kind of picking up some of these Frank Miller books. So Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, blue label, looking really good too. I talk about sort of the scuffing on the case, on the slab, is sometimes a problem with this book because it's such a simple cover. But it went for $668 US in the blue label. A really nice looking Batman, The Dark Knight Returns #1 in the first print. $668. Next book is one I brought out, and it's a Batman 366. So an interesting one with this. I was watching, this one doesn't pop up every now and then, but I was watching a CGC 9.8 Batman 366 in the United States. Very attractively priced, and from a seller that seemed to have a lot of CGC 9.8s that were quite attractively priced too, and just as buy it now. So every now and then sellers will do that, and this was definitely an example of that. 125 he had this up for, and I was watching it for about 5 days, 6 days. There were like 23 watchers, like a lot of watchers for a book like that. And the only reason I didn't buy it is because it was basically like, when I worked it out, it was like $62 US shipping. So, with that, the book would have ended up being over 180, I guess. And that, I think, is actually still a good price. So I was really tempted, but I just was second guessing myself because it was basically, $60 to $70 shipping is what I would have had to pay right at the checkout, with how eBay sometimes adds the import fees right at the checkout. I try to usually avoid those ads or those auctions as a Canadian, trying to get them over the border. But anyway, Batman 366, like this one. This one's a newsstand though, so the one that sold was a direct. For $125 it sold for $366. I mean, if I lived in the United States, I would have bought this way before it sold, because I was watching it for about a week, and initially when I saw it, I was like, I want to buy this. Shipping was like, just way too much, and usually I try to aim for about $20 shipping to Canada, so to have it be about $60-$70, which is just a little bit too much. So I'll wait for another Batman 366. I do have another one too, so that would have been my third CGC 9.8 of I Love Batman books of this era. So just would have been great at that price. I think they're still worth it to grab. Next book, Amazing Spider-Man 365. This is the first appearance of Spider-Man 2099, and I think this is actually a really cool, affordable key issue to like get that has a lot of potential. Yeah, it sold for $119.99. I was watching this one too because it was in Canada, and I was like, wow, that's pretty attractively priced for this book. $120, and being a Canadian seller, I was considering it to purchase it. But with this first appearance of Spider-Man 2099, I think it's kind of in like a preview, I believe, in the book. So it's not even really like he's in the story or anything, but still get kind of a cool Amazing Fantasy 15 homage hologram cover on this book. So yeah, kind of one to consider. Amazing Spider-Man 365, first Spider-Man 2099. And that, Spider-Man 2099 is sort of a whole new thing. It's kind of becoming a whole new heated up thing because of some of the Into the Spider-Verse movies and how he's in some of those story arcs. So yeah, I think kind of a cool character to collect. First appearance for like $120 in the CGC 9 perfect copy like that. Yeah, I almost regret kind of not buying that, to be honest. Yeah, because it was in Canada, good shipping, and I thought it was a decent deal, and it sold like 3 days later. So a Spawn #1 sold, and it sold for $120 in a direct, in a new case, a blue label. There's so many of these out there that I would get it at $100. So you can be picky on price with this one because I think there's over 5,000 in the CGC 9.8 of these, of Spawn #1. So 120, kind of maybe the higher end of the range. Yeah, you could probably get it for 100. Seen them go for like 90 before, if you're really patient. Next one, Avengers 257, first Nebula. And cool, certainly in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and a cool character that's it's not too expensive for this first appearance. So $140 I saw one of these sell for. And I've seen this book kind of sell in the sort of $179.99 type of range, maybe even up to $200 for this book, to be honest. So I think this is a good deal on it. Yeah, $140. Maybe not the best centering on this one, so sometimes you get that. If you get a really good deal, it might not be the best looking, eye-appealing 9.8, but still $140, new case, Avengers 257. Yeah, first Nebula. I saw Daredevil 158 in the completed listings. This is the first Frank Miller Daredevil book. Not Daredevil art. That's in a Spectacular Spider-Man book. But this, I guess his Daredevil run begins in this book. And a great cover. Awesome cover. Yeah, just the cover alone is probably the best cover out of his whole run. So Daredevil 158, CGC 9.8 white pages, $579 somebody bought this for. These Frank Miller books, yeah, signing up because of the CGC signature signing. So I think, you definitely have some probably signature series specialists in here just buying up these blue labels of Frank Miller's art. And yeah, we'll get into another book where the prices are showing that, where the prices are heating up compared to where they were before. So I saw Totally Awesome Hulk 22 sell. So first Weapon H, pretty cool modern book to get. There's a lot of these on the census too. It's like over 1,000 in the CGC 9.8, well over. So you can be patient on this one, and I've said that in the past. The one sold for $99.99, and I've seen one sell for $79.99 before too. Blue label, yeah, Totally Awesome Hulk 22, first Weapon H. So yeah, decent deal, I would say. Maybe the top end of the range is like $120, but I have seen them go for $79.99 before, so maybe you can aim for a better deal on that one, but still a decent price if you want that book. You're the Villain, Hell Arisen 3, so the first full punchline, pretty cool cover. I like this one. The first punchline too is that they're actually both of them really cool covers, but this is the You're the Villain one, and good evidence of why sometimes you just want to be a little patient on some of these hot books, because one sold for $119.99, and I mean these were in auctions when everyone was talking about it. Oh, the next Harley Quinn, and when it first came out, and they were all newly graded. They were going in auctions for $175, I would say. This book, and this I think is a little bit maybe more popular and more expensive than the Batman book with her first kind of brief appearance there, without her face shown, I believe it is. So yeah, this one cooling off a bit, 119 to where it was 175 when the kind of mid hype. So yeah, I would expect this one. That's probably a decent deal actually, 120. You know, if you're really picky on this one, you want it, maybe you get it closer to 100. But yeah, that's the one I'd probably prefer to. I do like the Arisen #3 cover. I saw Batman 567 sell. Yeah, I was gonna bring mine out. First appearance of new Batgirl, Cassandra Cain, kind of a late 90s book that's pretty underfollowed. But it looks really good on the census, too. Yeah, I was doing my comparisons on that lady superhero video we did, and really liking how it kind of compared the rarity on the census on this one. It's pretty good. Batman 567 sold for $140, and I have recommended in my videos like 150, 155 I see auctions go for, so 140 even better for Batman 567. I think that's a great deal, and it's pretty rare in the 9.8 for a book of that age, so yeah, this is one I think to come in and buy, whereas I purchased mine, it was like 203 or something in an auction, and that was like a year ago, maybe even longer. So I think lady superheroes were kind of a little more hot back then, so the prices were a little bit more. Right now, Batman 567, you're a big Batman fan, I think a great cover on this one. I think this is one to get at $140 maybe is the price to aim for. Another great DC key. I should have included on some of my DC countdown videos. Tales of the Teen Titans 44. First Nightwing, or when Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing. And yeah, great DC book to have. Cool kind of, I think it's Deathstroke the Terminator on the cover, but great book to have. And one sold for $225 in a new case, CGC 9.8, looking pretty good. Direct edition. But $225 is kind of that price that this goes for. A little over $200 usually, yeah. I mean, maybe if you're super patient, you get the deal of the time or the year or whatever, it might be closer to $200, but and I think every now and then a nice one, and maybe a newsstand will push $300 in this book, like every now and then, for good reason. Yeah, I think that's a good undervalued one actually. First Nightwing, Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing, cool cover, classic DC issue. That's $225. That I could easily see that being like $350, but yeah, just a cool first appearance and a cool DC book if you're into it. Next one, cool X-Men book, Uncanny X-Men 256, first new Psylocke, and this is really, this and sort of first Jubilee is my two picks of like the era. I know there's a lot of other people that like a lot of other, more popular maybe Wolverine covers, or even first Mr. Sinister. Like I kind of like this book over that just for this coolness of this cover and kind of the Jim Lee art and the Mandarin on the cover I really like. But one of these, a newsstand version, looking really good in a new case, sold for $149.99. And that's a pretty full price, I would say. At the direct version, I've seen this in an auction go for like $73-ish, kind of, well, 75 I guess we'll call it, for the direct version. So maybe in a newsstand, you pay $25 more possibly. So you're thinking maybe a good price for that would be $100. But $149.99, it wasn't a buy it now. So yeah, just someone, a very eye appealing newsstand version. So I could see why, instead of waiting around for an auction that might go for $125 on this book, like why not just pay another $25 and get it now? I mean, I kind of understand that. Because you get a good pride of ownership, and how many other times you spend $25 in your life. So if you can do it to get a decent pride of ownership, I think it's kind of worth it in some situations. You got to make that call. What If 105? This is a 90s book that came out in 1998. That's really popular and kind of a cool one, I think, but maybe overlooked. But it's a first Spider-Girl. What If number 105? Saw one in the CGC 9.8, sell for $374.95. And I think it was a pretty just, attractively priced buy it now. Yeah, this was not an auction or anything. So I think, though, that is quite a fair price. Yeah, I think maybe even in an auction, if a bidding war sort of got going, this would maybe even go over $400. Because, yeah, it's one book that is a great first appearance, and I think it has a cult following, but it's still not very collected, like one of those main keys that everyone thinks about. And I think, for me, I don't have it, and I don't really think about it right away. But $374.95 is probably like bang on fair market value, so decent price definitely for a pretty rare CGC 9.8 on that one. I saw Nova number 1, yeah, first classic book, first Richard Rider. Got a lot of Nova fans out there. For $950, CGC 9.8 white pages, looking really good too. Yeah, so I think, and that's pretty much a fair value too, not a deal. I would say a fair value. New Mutants 87, first cable. CGC 9.8 white page is looking pretty good. One sold for $349.99. And yeah, I would say that as well is pretty bang on fair. Yeah, that, maybe in an auction you might get it for $325, but this was a new case looking pretty good for $349.99. So yeah, if you want the first cable, I think that's a decent price to aim for. Yeah, kind of a book of the moment in a way. It was a Venom number 5, the scan variant. I saw one in the CGC 9.8 cell. Yeah, so this is the book where it apparently comes out, but it is the first cover of Null, whereas Venom number 3 third print is not. So there's been a little bit of a debate with that, but yeah, I wanted to see the price on this because I haven't been following that whole saga too much, but cool to kind of see one go for $189.99 in a blue label. Yeah, Venom number 5, the scan variant. Cool cover, yeah. I mean, I think it's neck and neck. In some ways, it might be better than the kind of Stegman. I think it's J.P. Mayer cover on Venom 3 third print, but they're kind of just neck and neck, really cool covers. And I think Venom 3 third print is really getting a bit, it's out of control hot. People, paying in the close to $400, I think, for that book now. I didn't see any of those in the thing. Yeah, maybe I should have did some searches for that. But nonetheless, this other popular Venom number 5 scan variant, $189.99. So, speaking of Frank Miller books, Wolverine number 1 limited series. Saw a couple of these sell for $400 even. So that is, yeah, I think that's definitely heating up and they were both direct editions. Every now and then, I would have, like in the past year, I'm talking, like I would have saw one of these in the newsstand version go for like $350, and that was like the max price. These books not in the newsstand in the direct. Usually the newsstands go for just a little bit more, but for $400. So yeah, again, I think maybe some signature series specialists just gobbling up some of these blue label 9.8s and getting them right off to CGC to get signed by Frank Miller. Yeah, his signatures really, I think he's charging more through CGC as well, but his signatures have always been known to be very expensive. Yeah, very, like all his books in the blue label, and then they're signed by Frank Miller, they're just absurdly expensive. So I don't have any signed Frank Miller books, but certainly some signature series specialists out there on the prowl, I think. Because my Wolverine limited series, I bought it 8 months ago, maybe almost a year ago at this point, for $276 it was. Yeah, I remember that one exactly. $276. So 2 going for $400 in this last week. An Ultimate Follow 4 first print. So I was really kind of interested to look for this book to see if an auction had went, and an auction did come up. Yeah. So first print Ultimate Follow 4, because last week's video one went for $550. And I was like, wow, like $550 is expensive. So I was interested to see, like, if an auction pops up, like, was that just a one-off kind of thing? Ultimate Follow 4, first print in an auction, sold for $508. So yeah, I think that's really positive for someone like me, who I know I bought this one about 6 months ago for $350. Yeah, it was like $355 or something like that. So yeah, to see it in an auction go for $508, I think that's, it's really starting to be appreciated, and starting to catch up in price to some other books that I think aren't as rare as an Ultimate Follow 4 CGC 9.8. So yeah, I think like that. I think it's like a fair price now. This is and I've mentioned in past videos like NYX number 3, like a really good deal on NYX number 3 CGC 9.8 is $650. And Ultimate Follow 4 is more rare in the CGC 9.8 and has less CGC 9.8s and is less price. So I think that could be a price target for Ultimate Follow 4, $650, like right at NYX number 3. I think both, basically Ultimate Follow 4 is more rare than NYX number 3, and I think the first appearances are pretty even in sort of iconicism, and the covers, I almost like the cover better on Ultimate Follow 4 number 3, and yeah, it's more rare, there's less on the senses, and I mentioned this in the past, it's cheaper, so everything just kind of lines up that, yes, Ultimate Follow 4 is undervalued. But at $508, starting to get pretty fully valued, I would say, with, that maybe long-term price target where NYX number 3 goes for in the CGC 9.8, which is about 650 to 750. Saw a book, kind of an outlier on the list here. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 10 from 1987. So just from the original run of Ninja Turtles, number 10, first print. A pretty cool cover, Shredder and Raphael cover that kind of caught my eye. Because yeah, sometimes these early Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle books are a bit underwhelming, just eye appeal wise. But this one is pretty cool. And the CGC 9.8 was sold for $187.75. So a pretty cool book, I think. You know, if you're a huge Ninja Turtles fan, if you're looking for kind of non-key issue early Ninja Turtles, yeah, $187.75 for this one in the CGC 9.8. So saw New Mutants 98 sell, and it sold for $729. So yeah, I think it was the last video or the video before that. A couple had sold for like over 900, I think. And I'd mentioned, wow, there's so many New Mutants 98s out there in the CGC 9.8. You probably want to be patient on that one and I think you can still get it direct for, around 700 to 750. And yeah, I think this one here was in an auction too. I think it was in Canada, so there wasn't too many people bidding on it, it seemed. But $729.99 was the final price for New Mutants 98 CGC 9.8. Another bit of an outlier one I saw sell, and someone bought Jurassic Park number 1. So kind of an early 90s book. $149 someone paid for it, which I bet if you're more patient on this, there's probably not a lot of them, but you get it maybe closer to 100, maybe like 110, 120. But cover is done by Gil Kane and George Perez. So like two legends doing a cover here in the early 90s, I think is just kind of cool. And pretty cool cover at that. And I mean, I'm not the hugest Jurassic Park movie fan or anything, but if you grew up and you really like those movies, this might be a cool one to have for sure. $149, yeah, hopefully you get it closer to 100. Really cool book here, and this is a signature series book, the next one, and I've considered purchasing this type of book. So it's an Amazing Spider-Man 252 signed by Stan Lee in the CGC 9.8. Nice new case for this one. Yeah, looking pretty great, the copy too of Amazing Spider-Man 252. Signed by Stan Lee, signed by Stan the Man. It sold for $1,179. And yeah, I think, if you get lucky and you're really patient on this on an auction, it's probably right around $1,000. I would say $1,000 to $1,050. But if you want it right now, $1,179. I think that's a pretty good deal actually. For this is a really good one. I've specifically thought of buying this exact book. Amazing Spider-Man 252 is that Amazing Fantasy 15 cover homage of Spider-Man, and is tied for the first black costume, so you get that too. But a great cover of the homage, and then, Stan Lee, of course, creator of Spider-Man, so Stan's the man. So, one I've considered buying, and I think that's a decent price if you want it. You got a long-term time horizon, $1,179.99. Maybe get it closer to $1,000 if you're picky. Next book I saw was a really cool one, actually. Kind of made me jealous. Marvel Presents number 3 from kind of mid-70s. It's the first solo Guardians of the Galaxy comic book. So not like their first appearance or anything, but their first solo sort of comic book story. And this was, really fresh-looking copy. And, whenever you can get something in the 70s and like a perfect example, it just looks really cool. And cool cover on this one, too. So it sold for $399.95. And I think that is actually a pretty decent deal. $400 for this book. I could think of a lot of books over $400 that I don't think are as cool or as worth as much as this book. So Marvel Presents number 3, first solo Guardians of the Galaxy comic, $399.95. So $400, we'll call it. Yeah, I think that's kind of a price to aim for. Like, if you ever wanted that book in the CGC 9.8 and it popped up and it was right around $400, I would just pull the trigger. Yeah, great one to have. That could have a lot of potential too. Yeah, over the long term. Okay, last book on the list is Amazing Spider-Man 361. Yeah, I brought both mine out here. So, got a couple newsstands and directs that sold. So the directs saw one sell for $400 and saw one sell for $425. So, and I think a bit cooling off maybe. I think some of these were going for kind of $450, $475, like right as that Let There Be Carnage announcement came out. So maybe just cooling off a tad. $400 to $425 was sort of where the newsstands used to sell sort of, like 6 months ago. Newsstands, a couple of newsstands sold. So one, this one's a newsstand here. You get the barcode here. This is the direct. You get the Spider-Man 30th anniversary. Newsstand more rare in the early 90s because most comic books went directly to the comic shop. Not a lot going on newsstands and like convenience stores in the 90s because comic shops exploded during that time. So not a lot of newsstands during that time, a little more rare. One went for $460 in the newsstand, and another one went for $599.95. And this is a good example of like what happens during when movies are out in theater kind of thing. Because the prices in general for the comic books will they'll rise. Let's call it like 20-30% maybe. But there's way more of a chance of some of these pretty absurd buy it nows will be gobbled up by someone that doesn't know anything about the pricing history and just, saw the Carnage trailer or got excited about the Carnage thing and goes on eBay and sees that and, just gets excited and buys it. So I think that's kind of what happened with this $599.95 newsstand one. So this book here, which mine I bought, probably about a year ago now, and it was like $404 in an auction. And that was a pretty good deal. I've heard of people getting these for like $350 or even under. 6 months ago, let's call it. Yeah, under $350 even for a newsstand sometimes. Because with, these Amazing Spider-Man 361s, there's so many of them on the census. There's like 3,200 or something like that. CGC 9.8s of this book out there. So it's one you can be patient on. If you lose an auction, there's going to be one or two popping up next week or in the next 2 weeks. Or, very rarely if you're patient. Like, if you're patient on this book, you find a newsstand at a good price. But, with this whole movie thing going on, getting a little expensive. If you still wanted to buy it, I think the $460 for a newsstand was in an auction. So that's probably, $450, $460 is probably about the lowest in a newsstand. And then $400, $425 for a direct. Maybe you can still sneak in a direct under $400. Maybe if it lulls in between sort of, the Carnage movie's not coming out until next year, so there'll probably be a lull. You know what? Considering all that, I think for this book, you might just want to wait like 3 months here. And then there'll be a decent lull. I think you'll get better prices on Amazing Spider-Man 361. And then, eventually the price will ramp back up going into the movie, which I believe is like next April or something, like next year, next March or something like that. I believe it was. I forget exactly, but. Okay, that's the last book on the list. So, I will have the full list in the description below of each comic book, the CGC 9.8, and the price. It's good to kind of see that as a bit of a resource, maybe as you're watching the video. I like to do that. But some great key issues. You know what? I think for sure Frank Miller books are heating up. Definitely more of, I'm seeing more of those sell. Batman The Dark Knight Returns for $668. A Batman 404, someone bought a Batman 404 on the team, and Wolverine Limited Series, 2 of those going for $400 when I bought mine for $275, and $275 was really, that was the price that they all went for, 6 months ago, basically. That was a kind of a normal price that, the fair market value for a Wolverine Limited Series #1. So Frank Miller books heating up. You know what, maybe prices still, heating up a little bit, but the thing is I think there's, still some deals to be had. I don't think it's smart to be like, I'm not buying at all right now. Like for me, I kind of have a mentality right now where I'm not really trying to get excited to buy much at all right now, because I am seeing evidence that the prices are higher. And I think, if you're just a little bit patient, they might lull in the next, couple months here, possibly after sort of post-stimulus check coronavirus world. But like a good example, Batman 366, that 125, like that's a fantastic deal. I've seen that book sell for like $175. And I bought mine, I think it was like $140, and I thought that was like the best deal ever on it. My other one I bought for like $200. So I paid a little bit more for mine. So still some deals to be had, like that Batman 366 or that Amazing Spider-Man 365. First Spider-Man 2099 for $120 is pretty good deal too. So definitely, I don't think one of those things where you just want to go, no, the prices are way too high on everything, and there's still those special situations to search out, especially in CGC 9.8 comic books. But some great prices, and Ultimate Fallout 4 over $500 in an auction, $508. So you know, as someone who has one of those, I kind of just wish I bought another one, to be honest. Yeah, I remember there was auctions like going right up to around 400, and I was like, I'd really like to pay like 375 or less, when really I should have just took down another one and bid, you know, put in a reasonable bid at like maybe 420, probably would have brought it down for maybe like 398 or 402, which is looking really good with one going in auction for 508, with this book still having a really good future. Yeah, the Ultimate Fallout 4, first Miles Morales, new Spider-Man. Okay, I think that's enough blabbering on. Thanks so much for watching. And if you haven't already, I'd invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8 and hit the bell to get all the latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter too. I'll have all the links in the description below for that. But thanks so much for watching today. Great list of prices. Yeah, some cool ones, some outliers, and just, you know, always great to stay on top of these prices for the key issues. And you know, you're never going to overpay. Then you're going to see all those absurdly overpriced, you know, books on eBay and just laugh. And, you know, more knowledge is always better when you're buying these CGC 9.8 comic books, and you don't want to overpay too, you know, a lot and at all. And, you know, maybe a little overpays, but, you know, if you overpay a lot, that can kind of sour the hobby for some people. So that's what kind of these pricing videos are all about. But thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate all the support. Definitely message me on Instagram if you just had any questions about comics or whatever it might be. Thanks for watching today. I'll see you on the next one.